Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be in one of my favorite scriptures, Hebrews 12:2. I even have this printed on some of our banners at church and display it, at the road from time to time. So it was one of my favorites. I'm currently, I've been trying to find, because I've been trying to do it the easier way, just like we all want to try to do something the easier way. I've been trying to find lessons for our youth group that's going to be beginning in January. And I've been trying to find something already put together, already planned out, just to make it a little less stressful on myself. I cannot quite find what I'm looking for. It's just not quite what I'm looking for. And so the pastor and I are going to be teaming up, and we are going to be putting the lessons together ourselves over the next, week or so. As I was doing that, and I was going through some of my notes, and when we have our youth ministry every year, and I've done this for a long time. When I prepare my lessons, I always have a theme. It seems like God always gives me a theme. And something to kind of focus on. I know that one year I did I did the Armour of God, and you would think that I could make that last for like 9 months, because we do our youth ministry from September through May, but we haven't started it back yet. We had a little break. So we're starting it back in January, and you would think that you couldn't do that many lessons from September to May on the Armour of God, but I did. God gave me, a lesson, and I had it all like over the summer, and I had every lesson planned out, and it took me, every bit of it, and it was really good. One year I did, it was the life of David, and we went through all of things that he went through, and victories, mistakes, all of that. So, but this year, as we're starting back our ministry, our youth ministry on Wednesday nights, it is going to be about the names of Jesus. The names of Jesus and all the ways that he is explained. As we're learning more about Jesus, sometimes these titles or these descriptive words will help us understand just who he is. Not who he was, but who he is. It'll help us in our daily walk to understand a little bit more how that we're to walk by faith and not by sight. So as I'm going into Hebrews chapter 12, verse number 2, let me read it for us, and then we'll get into it for a little bit more. But as I was preparing those lessons, I thought, man, this would make a great daily armor. And so I'm kind of doing a little double duty. It's given me, I don't know, just that time and, to dig in a little bit more. And as I was preparing this lesson, I thought of an activity to do with the kids related to this title that we're going to be talking about here in just a second. So Hebrews chapter 2, chapter 12. I'm so sorry. Hebrews chapter 12. I knew I was saying that wrong. I just couldn't figure out what I said. Hebrews chapter 12, verse number 2. And it says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. As you are thinking about Jesus and who he is, remind yourself that he is the author and the finisher of my faith, of your faith. If you're saved, he is the author. He began a work in you. He's going to finish a work in you, and he knows how to endure. He knows how to get through those tough times, those difficult moments, it's just excruciating amount of grief or pain or adversity or roadblocks or all these things that come into our life and that are affecting our walk, and that can affect so many things inside and outside. But when we're thinking about some of those most important things that we need to understand about Jesus, I think for me, what I want to convey the most is that Jesus is God. He is God that came in flesh so that he could be that sacrifice, so he could become man. He became man for me and for you, because man had to pay the price. And so there's something that I think that, is like the very first thing that we need to understand about Jesus, is that he didn't begin as that baby in a manger. This is a Christmas season. We're going to have Christmas, and Christmas will be 2 weeks from yesterday. Today is Thursday. And 2 weeks from yesterday is Christmas Day, and we celebrate his birth. But he didn't start in Bethlehem's manger. He didn't begin in the womb of Mary. He always has been. When we think about Genesis 1:1, and we at the very beginning of the Bible, when you go back to the very first verse, he's mentioned. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And in that word God, it means Elohim, which is plural, which means it's plural. And God is, and we can't understand that. Our minds are not able to do that. That's okay. We don't have to understand everything. That's where we believe by faith that God is. And he is the beginning. He is the author and the finisher. When you think about being the author of a book, or a short story, or you're coming together and you're putting together something, as the author, you get to decide who all's in the story. You get to decide what all's going on. And in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I want this person to have blonde hair, and I want brown eyes, and I don't want this character's going to be, brown-headed with green eyes, and, this one's going to be tall, this one's going to be shorter, this one's going to be a boy, this one's going to be a girl, and I've got, maybe you're like, oh, I want it to be set in like, a farm, and I want them to be farmers. Or maybe in your story you want all of your people to be working in the city, and you're thinking of some kind of city scene. So as you're the author of a story or a book or whatever, as you're thinking about using your imagination, then think about that. That's what God does for all of us, that he is the author, and Jesus is God. And he's the author. He's the author and the finisher of my faith. My faith in him began with him. It began with him, and he's going to help me in this task that is before me, which is living out my life, is being my earthly ministry, whatever that it is, this being one of those earthly ministries that he's given for me to do. And as sometimes the timing gets crazy, and I can't always be where I want to be, or be doing what I want to do, or get it all in, or sometimes I get tired and weary, and I just can't seem to get it all in. I'm excited because the Lord's saying, but he endured the cross. He had to he despised the shame. He got upset with all that he was. He didn't endure all that and it not hurt. He hurts. He hurt like we hurt. He experienced physical pain like we have experienced and do experience physical pain. He endured embarrassment and shame and disgusting things. They were casting lots for his garments, and they put that crown of thorns and on his head, and they were just trying to humiliate him. They were slapping him. They were doing all these vicious, horrible things to him, and he endured it. He could have stopped it at any time. How? Because he's not a man that didn't have, that didn't have power. He was a man who was 100% man, but he was also 100% God. He had all the power, and he had all the ability to stop it. And yet he didn't, because there was a greater purpose for it. There was a greater purpose in it and through it. And that purpose was me, and that purpose was you. And as he is the author, and everything starts with him, then as we are having to endure some things in our life, and this is why this author and finisher can help me, and it can help you in our daily walk, is that when we're reminded that he had to endure that cross, that he had to suffer that shame, that all these things that he went through, and if you read about that, all those things that took place, before he was crucified, and then and then he was crucified, and all those things that he endured on the cross. And we think, oh my goodness, that's terrible. Why did he do that? And he did that for me, and he did that for you. And the end result, he didn't stay that way. He's like, we're enduring some things. They're not going to stay that way. Because look at what it says at the very last of the verse. It says at the last of the verse, he says, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. That he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. He is with the Father. He is reunited with the Father. He has made a bridge, and he has bridged that gap he's connecting the Father with me and with you, and he is connecting us, and he is sat down because he's finished that work. He endured it, and he had to go through some difficulties, and I have to endure some things, and you have to endure some things, and we go through some things that are so hard and so difficult. And he's saying, but I'm with you in the beginning, and I'll be with you through the end. He is the beginning. He is the end. He is the author. He is the finisher. It reminds me of Revelation in chapter 1 and in chapter 21 and in chapter 22. He is described not just like in Hebrews, this author and finisher, but he's the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He is the first and the last. And that is describing Jesus. And all of that is a picture of he was at the beginning before the world began. He was there. He always has been. He always will be. And as it also helps us with our faith and with our walk and with the things that we have to endure, he's going to help us complete our earthly ministry, just like he completed his earthly ministry. And all that, and that ability was because he is God. But then because he is God, he is able to help us to endure, even though we have to despise some things we have to go through, even though it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is, whatever it is in your life, whatever it is in my life, it's like, I don't want to do this, but he's saying, you need to do it. You're going to do it, and you're going to get through it. And it may be difficult, and you may dread it, and you may think this is terrible. He says, but I'm going to be there with you. And he's going to help us to endure, and he's going to help us to get through. And then one day we're going to be able to say, oh my goodness, not that I'm going to sit down at the right hand of the Father, but because he has sat down, he's bridged that gap. He has that communication between, I have communication with the Father, you have communication with the Father if you're saved. And we have that through Jesus. And that's how we get through and how we complete our earthly ministry, is because he is the author and the finisher of our faith. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.